Awesome. All right. Well, welcome to CNS Connect webinar series. My name is Amy Smith, and I'm the manager of certification programs. Today, I am joined by Danielle, Shea, who is going to talk to us about the art of building a referral network. A few reminders, we do have a Q&A and a chat. Feel free to use both of those. If at any point you want to share, please raise your hand and I can unmute you. Today's webinar will be worth 1 CEU, so I will put a survey in the chat at the end for CNSs to claim that. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Danielle.
Great, thank you. Okay, so I will get started, but I'm going to first bring up my screen. Let's see. Okay. Oh, no, I don't like this way. I'll do view in slideshow. Let's see if I share my screen, if that will work.
Yes.
Okay. Great. All right, I think we're good then. I'm going to make sure I'm looking at you guys. I know it's a little bit of a distraction. Okay, welcome everyone. I'm excited to be here. And I thought I would just start with just a quick intro about me. So this is actually, being a CNS is actually my second career. I was a management consultant for almost 12 years. So now in my current life, aside from being a CNS clinician, I also combine my skills as a management consultant with my nutrition skills, and I do consulting work for a variety of different companies. So in addition to running a private practice, I also do consulting work for food and beverage companies, herbal medicine companies, and the like. But so just a little kind of side note about that, because I know that many people, as they're getting their CNS or trying to build out what they want their life to look like, it's interesting to hear about how other people use their past skills and their current skills in nutrition to combine them. So I also run a private nutrition practice for moms and young children. I focus primarily on digestive health and skin health because they go so hand in hand, as you know. And so most of my clients are from preconception, but mostly pregnancy, postpartum, infants, and young children under about age 5. But sometimes I'll take older children, depending on what the focus is. So I think that's probably a good amount. You can find me at healthymamas.com. And I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram. So if you guys want to follow up with me and have any questions, feel free to reach out. Okay, so let's see. All right, so today we will talk about just the foundations of building a referral network, the phases of building a referral network. We'll talk about some networking tools and approaches, and then we're going to do an activity together. So hopefully you'll be able to stop and grab a pen and paper, write on the back of a napkin, do it on your phone, whatever works best for you. But I would love to have an opportunity for us to start implementing some of these actions, and then for me to help guide somebody along the way, and maybe somebody will be willing to share an example. If not, that's okay. And then we'll just wrap it up with some final tips for success. And of course, give you guys some time for a Q&A. Okay, so why I named this, first, I wanted to start by saying this. I am not a professional networker. However, I've had so many networking trainings since I was in my 20s. I worked at a big accounting and strategy firm called Deloitte, and networking was it was basically how you got your next project. You had to learn how to network. You had to learn how to build relationships. You had to learn how to help other people so that they know that you do good work and they'd want to bring you onto their projects. Because why would they want to bring you onto their projects if they don't know whether you're going to do a good job or not, or what kind of person you are? So I have been really networking has been the core of my life, my whole career, really. I guess more of my life now than it was before. And so I've gotten lots of tips along the way, but I do really feel that there's no one way to do this. And it truly is like building your referral network is really like an art. So no two networks will look the same, and no two journeys to building them the same will be the same. And there's no single methodology that you must follow to get a great referral network. I think that there are some basic rules, and you might already know some of these. Some of these might really not be brain science, but it's always helpful to hear them from a different perspective, and to kind of think about them from a different perspective. So I wanted to also mention that, from a foundational perspective, like the most successful referral networks will really be authentic to you. So my referral network is going to look completely different. And even if we are serving the same type of clients, my referral network and who I lean on to refer people to me and vice versa will really look different. But maybe you'll get a great example today of what mine looks like and how I got there to help you get to where you would like to be with your referral network. Before I move on, I also just wanted to mention, maybe I should have done this earlier, but my business right now is fully reliant on referrals. I get 100% of my business from referrals. I don't think I've gotten a single client from just being online, although that would be nice. But so all that time that I've tried to spend in the past online hasn't gotten me a referral. But what it has gotten me is referral partners. So I might not be able to do business to consumer on Instagram and get consumers that want to buy my services or get my support. But I do find in my particular business and who I focus on that if I can attract the attention of referral partners that get to know me, then they will then refer me to their clients. So that's really how my business has been reliant upon referrals. Okay, I wanted to start with this kind of picture. I threw it together. It's not anything that is fancy, but I wanted to kind of show you that my referral network is always evolving, like what you might consider art, right? You start with one type of art, and then as you get better and better or have a different perspective, your art evolves over time. And my referral network is really continuing to evolve, and it may kind of go off in one trajectory and then come back into a different trajectory. So what you have here is a set of majority of, when I think about the women, not necessarily the infants, but the women in my referral that come into my practice that are clients and how they've been referred. I'm thinking about all the referral partners of how I bring women in. So the ones that are bright pink, this is an area where I have robust relationships. Like I have a couple of chiropractors that tend to regularly send me clients. I have doulas that regularly send me clients and refer to me when they hear from their clients struggles that I could be helping them with. Then if you move along, I have some other referral partners that the relationships aren't as robust. Maybe I don't have as many. Maybe they aren't relationships that I check in with as regularly, but I still will get or have gotten clients from. So as we move from bright, dark pink down to really white, that represents the robustness of the relationships that I have. So here I wanted to mention, like, I am building out relationships with other nutritionists. I'm building out relationships with lactation consultants. That's what the IBCLC LCs are, but that's still new and early. So I've built some relationships, but I still need to expand my reach. I still need to establish rapport with the current IBCLCs so that they can start to get to know my approach and who I can help most and start to refer to me more regularly. And then I put two particular areas categories, of referral partners on here that I have thought about and to some extent may have reached out with somehow, but it's really a very weak, I would characterize it as not very strong for me in terms of referral partners. So I have some allergists and a couple of PCPs that know my work, and I have midwives that know my work. But they don't necessarily refer to me, or if they have, I have not received a confirmed client from that referral yet. But I do think that it's helpful to understand this baseline, and we're going to get to that. Okay. All right. So what do I see as the phases of building a referral network? I want to just reiterate here, this is just how I see a referral network being built. Other people might have a completely different approach and framework, but I do use frameworks a lot just from my consulting days. And so if I had to categorize it and figure out what's a process and what does that framework look like, this would have been it as a start. So in the beginning, when you're building a referral network, it looks very rudimentary. It might, on this back page, you will likely start with one category of practitioners that might be able to refer to you, or one group of people. Like, for example, maybe you work with maybe you also work in my space and you work with moms, and maybe your referral network is not going to be any of these practitioners, but it's going to be mothers groups that are in your area. So it might likely start with just one category, or it might likely start with just picking a practitioner from a few different categories that you just happen to know, and starting there. And how do you start creating these relationships and making those relationships more robust in a way that those practitioners can understand how you do business, what your approach is, and how you can help their clients even more. So the beginning might, for example, be a handful of complementary practitioners where you might request a Zoom chat. Hey, I was, I have some clients that have this need or that need, and I saw on your website that you will support these types of clients. Could we get on the phone and chat? Could we get on a Zoom chat and meet each other over video? And then as you get comfortable with that process, I see just like art, I see that your referral network and your process starts to evolve. And maybe then, only then, when you feel that you've kind of nailed down and got really comfortable with your process from a beginner stage, do you then start to think, okay, how do I expand my referral network and use, maybe it's more tools, maybe it's more categories of practitioners. So in this case, it could be, you might start with email and then you've moved on to using DMs. Or maybe you've started with one category of practitioners and then you move on to expanding to other categories of practitioners. And then I see that evolving to getting to maybe even more complexities that support your business. It might be sending letters, or maybe holiday cards to a number of practitioners. It might be creating rack cards that you can put at different offices to help your practitioners point their clients to your services. And it might be that you evolve the way in which you keep those relationships going and keep those relationships strong. So from a beginner standpoint, you might straight up just be emailing. And then maybe you start to get comfortable with some of these practitioners, and maybe they're close, and maybe you pop into their office. And that's as you start to get comfortable with how do I build a referral practice, what you're saying, what you're doing to make these practitioners feel comfortable with you. Then you start to expand, like maybe you pop into the office. Maybe you even offer to have, like a pop-in Q&A session on nutrition for their clients, if that's relevant. Maybe you end up hosting a local networking group for all complementary practitioners that serve your same client base. So I wanted to lay this out because I think that we tend to evaluate ourselves against what others who have been doing this for decades or maybe even 5 years. And we, myself included, tend to get stuck and get in our own way of how to begin. So let's see, does this work? Okay, there it is. All right, so let me tell you an example. All right, so in the beginning, I kind of already told you this. I started by emailing a handful of labor and postpartum doulas. Okay, and I requested Zoom chats. And sometimes I got a response and sometimes I did not. But I kept at it and I focused on this group because I felt like it was very relevant, particularly when they did childbirth education or particularly when they worked with postpartum mamas in their home. I felt that they had the direct connection with the mothers and could say, hey, I noticed that you're having some digestive issues. I know somebody that works with this, or maybe the baby is having a lot of eczema. I understand you're probably working with a pediatrician, but if you want a more holistic or natural approach, I know somebody that works with this. So that's why I anchored on labor and postpartum doulas, because I felt that they were already kind of a referral partner for their clients. So that's one way to think about it. Choosing somebody who is already referring out might be a helpful place to start. And then as I advanced, I started adding other categories of practitioners, which you can as well. So adding pelvic floor PTs. After I felt like, you know what, I've tapped probably 10 different doulas in the area. They know me. I'm now on their Facebook group. I post occasionally to mention when I have a pregnancy program that they might be interested in. And I feel very well established with this group. Now I'm going to add in some more. So then I started with pelvic floor PTs, and I have a couple in my kind of back pocket that are local that I can refer people to. But in addition to just the category of people that I'm working with, I started reposting content online and using direct messages to connect with other practitioners. And then you could see continuing down that path. I really wouldn't say I'm as advanced in my networking now, but hold me 1 second. Can you please leave me alone? I'm recording.
Danielle, you're muted, I think.
Sorry about that. Okay. So then I advanced, and I wouldn't say, I don't know if I said this already, but or if you heard it, I wouldn't say that I'm advanced in my networking, right? But because I think we all can continue to grow and learn and still get better. But then I just, I'm showing you along the phases what it might look like. So at this point, what it might look like is I have a number of different categories of practitioners that refer to me. I actually have a pretty regular way to get in touch with them. I often will send emails at least every 2 months that kind of I tick through my list and I tell them what's going on, what I have coming up in my practice. And then I kind of do a little reconnaissance and find out what's going on in their practice so that I can say, hey, I saw this was happening. Is this something that I should be mentioning to my clients? Tell me more about how I can help you. So that's kind of what my advanced looks like. It includes many more categories and includes a variety of different ways that I engage. So I also am part of a group locally, and I got plugged in to help a woman that brings holistic practitioners together. And I have helped organize and run different monthly topic type of, networking sessions where complementary practitioners that work in the birth world have come together, presented to each other, and networked. So in the beginning, it was just me reaching out, and now I have people reaching out to me, asking me to connect. So I feel like that's a win. All right. So I wanted to say, and you might already know this, but I wanted to say that it's important when you get started that you have an imperfect action. And I know that in my mastermind group, we're always talking about lately, what's the imperfect action we can take now? Which I so appreciate, because sometimes I'm a perfectionist, and coming from the consulting world, I always feel like I have to do everything in an A+ fashion, and sometimes A+ doesn't really get you the results you need. So I will say that these are a variety of ways to use tools for your networking. If you are in a place where you don't have a network, a referral network yet, and you think that you need something like some software or a robust Excel spreadsheet that helps you understand who you're reaching out to and what you're doing and when you reached out to them and what their practice is about, I would say stop yourself and start with what is right in front, right center in the middle, a notebook and a pen. So, or to the left, maybe some people aren't using a notebook as much anymore, and they're using their phone and writing notes on their phone. So this is a variety of ways to keep track of your network and understand how what your network, referral network looks like, and how to continue to make it robust. You can send cards. You could have sticky notes to keep track of it. You can send emails. You could send DMs. But at the very basics, if you don't have a referral network, I would say to start simple. And then you can advance as you get more robust with your referral network. Okay, so simple tools. I'll show you. On the left is what I started with. I have a note in my, and I still use this. It's kind of become my notebook. But I have a note, I had a note in my phone that I check every time I need to, that has, it's titled work. And in it, it's like, what are the most urgent things I need to do? Whether it's like getting back to a client, getting back to a partner, getting back to, sending protocols, whatever it is. And in there is a section that I have titled networking. And I keep track of what are the next steps I need to do. At this point, this was scheduled with Allie. She was a pediatric acupuncturist. This is reach out to a person who does feeding at Stork Ready. Stork Ready is not just a single practitioner that refers to me, but it is a child development center that has, I think, 8 to 10 practitioners, and they are an opportunity for me to do classes there, and all of those people there will refer to each other, whoever works at Stork Ready. And so on. These are additional people that I was trying to reach out to, practitioners. On the right is kind of where I'm at now. Sometimes I'll have some to-dos on my phone, but on the right is where I'm at now. Hopefully you can see it. So you'll see I have an Excel spreadsheet that's called networking list. I have the individual's name. I also have contact info, but I've hidden that because I don't think that was fair to them to share. I have what do they focus on for services? Where are they? Any notes that were important in our conversations? And then what was the last day I reached out, and what was the content that I shared? This helps me so that if I am going to reach out again, I know what I shared last time and I don't repeat that. So I try to keep it fresh and interesting, even though, people need to hear the same thing 3 times over. I will include information about past things that I might have spoken about, but I won't have it highlight in my outreach. So I wanted to say that, at the bottom, like artistic skills, you begin to use different tools and different mediums to build your network. Okay, so again, same thing, allow your approach to evolve. And this is important to lay over here, it's like, use what's authentic to you. So I actually am like much better person in person, and COVID kind of screwed that up, but I am much better in person. So if there is like, a way for me to pop into an office, I might do that. But I also have found that doing things over Zoom is a better way for me to connect. So I always offer that up instead of a phone call. So in the beginning, I would pop into offices. And then in COVID, and since then, because I think life has really changed since then, I would suggest we get on a Zoom chat for 15 to 30 minutes. In the beginning, I would offer free talks, sometimes to the chiropractic offices. And then now I'm much more selective in offering free talks. I really encourage them to send people to my existing talks that I'm doing that are paid workshops usually. I'm also much more selective in my outreach and screening. I've had people, reach out to me before that it didn't seem like I've spent time connecting with people, and may probably so in the past I've spent time connecting with people that I actually didn't believe in their work as much. And so I've really tried to limit that. And if somebody reaches out to me to say, I'm so sorry, I don't have much time, but I'm going to be at this networking event. Would you consider joining? And then I can meet more people at that event. And now at this point, like my approach has evolved, and I encourage you to evolve your approach. Start simple so that you can get started, and then evolve your approach. And you might offer ideas when you get really comfortable in your practice or getting comfortable in having people refer to you. You might have more ideas, for example, about how you can collaborate these individuals. So let me give you an example. I have I'm starting to build out those relationships with IBCLCs. So I'll just quickly go back to the old slide here. I wanted to show you. So this is this category here that is, this pink light pink category to the left, IBCLCs and LCs. So I'm just starting to build that relationship. I know a few of them, and I've wanted to develop stronger relationships with them. These are lactation consultants, in case you don't know. I've wanted to build stronger relationships with them, particularly because can you think about a lactation consultant who works with a mama and baby, and baby is really struggling, having a lot of gas, having a lot of feeding issues? You can imagine there's probably a lot of gut stuff that's going on. So I want to connect with them because I think they're going to be amazing referral partners. But it's not that easy to connect with them because a lot of them don't have private practices. They work in hospital settings, and sometimes hospital practitioners won't refer unless you are within their hospital network. So it's not easy. But I have recently connected with this woman who's an IBCLC. And in the beginning, we just kind of connected over Zoom a couple of times. And then most recently, she reached out to me and said, hey, I'm creating some handouts for my clients, and I think a collaboration would be amazing. These are the types of things I'm thinking about. And so now we are going to, over the next couple of months, build out some handouts together that supports both of our client bases. And okay, so I wanted to say here, like, just give you some examples of what to say in a DM or an email. I would say start as brief as possible, if you can. A brief intro about yourself, and then get very quickly into what you can offer your referrals. So I don't really spend too much time on what I want them to do for me, but really what I want, why I want to get in touch with them is because I work with people in this area that need this. So I have literally said this verbatim. I work with women and infants, often struggling with digestive issues and the stress of being a new mom. I'm looking for a postpartum doula in your area to refer a client to. I'm looking for a therapist to refer a client to? Are you accepting new clients? So this begins the process. And then we go from there I usually then go from there to suggest a Zoom chat to share information about other types of clients we serve and potentially approach for healing. Sometimes people have time and sometimes they don't. Like, for example, I will definitely usually get doulas who have time to chat and want to chat because they are known for connecting their clients with other practitioners that their clients need. So if a new mom or a pregnant mom is looking for example, newborn care class, they would connect her with a practitioner or a class. Or if that particular that mom is looking for lactation support, they would connect her. So same way, they would act in that way where they connect, and that's why I think I connect with them. But then I have other people that are just tapped. Like, for example, it's really hard to get a doctor or a nurse practitioner to spend time chatting with you over Zoom. I have done it once before. It wasn't over Zoom. It was a 10-minute phone call. And in that 10 minutes, I learned that this was not going to be the right referral partner for me, because she basically told me that certain supplements and herbs don't work. And I knew that wasn't the case, but I was very pleasant. And I said, thanks so much for your time, and moved along. But so it will be difficult. And I would encourage you to not feel rejected, to know that these individuals are super busy sometimes and they just don't have time. And so finding a way that might work for them, like, hey, then can I send you a letter with some business cards, and I'll tell you a little bit about what I do in the letter, or what's the best way to share this information with you. And they may be able to tell you that. Okay. So I thought maybe we would do an activity if anybody is interested. Let me see if I escape my screen for a minute. Okay, hold on. First, I'm going to go back to sharing, but I don't know if it'll... then I can kind of see. Okay, I can't quite see. Hopefully this works for you guys. Let's see. Okay, so I thought maybe we would start an activity. So if you can, to take a pen and paper, maybe it's just a note on your phone, or maybe it's just in your head, and think about where you are. What is your baseline? Is this a blank slate? Is your referral network a blank slate? Is there nobody referring to you right now? Or maybe it's just other nutritionists, which is fabulous. Could be a fabulous place to focus. And then think about where you want to be. What are some categories of practitioners that you think would be great referrals for you? And I'm going to go through the questions, and then I'll give you a minute, and we'll see if Amy can actually just unmute and see if anybody is willing to share. So what are some categories of practitioners that you think would be great referral partners for you, and why? And then, maybe there's some that are in the middle for you. Like maybe they're already doing some good, but I think I could do more work with them. So I'd love for you to just start with laying out what your baseline is. Who are your robust referral partners? And if not, who do you want to be your robust referral partners? Because it makes the most sense. All right, I'm going to give everybody like a minute maybe to think about it. All right. Okay. So is anybody willing to share? I think maybe if I should stop sharing.
If anybody wants to share, raise your hand and I will unmute you.
No takers?
No takers.
Okay, okay.
Oh,
That's
here we
it.
go. Andy said she would do it here. Let me
All right, awesome.
unmute you. All right, Andy, you can.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I came up with 3.
Okay.
Naturopathic doctors is my first one. Bariatric doctors, because I have a background with bariatric surgery,
Oh, that's great.
and chiropractors.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about why don't you pick one of them and tell me why, if you have a background of bariatric surgery, that sounds like it's pretty clear why there would be great connections for you. What about naturopathic doctors? Tell me a little bit about why you think they would be a great referral.
Just because they tend to have a holistic approach. So I think they don't really have the time to deal with nutrition that much. And so I think that would be a good referral source for me.
Okay, okay. And now the last one you said chiropractor. So tell me about that.
A lot of chiropractors, my ex-husband's a chiropractor, so he used to refer to me with people who were like overweight because it would put a lot of stress on their joints. So I think that would be a good referral source for me as well.
That's great. So now, where are you in your referral? Are you in the beginning of your referral network creation?
Yes, I'm in the very beginning.
So is your work focused on weight loss surgery? I mean, weight loss or weight loss surgery, or both?
Weight loss.
Weight loss. So now many people that get bariatric surgery, right, they have to often lose some weight before. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So do you already have connections in the bariatric space?
I used to, but the surgeon that I used to consult for isn't doing surgery anymore. So no, not currently.
Okay. So, but at least you know that space.
Yes.
Like. So maybe you can begin there because it's easier to, to tap into the network of the insurance space if you know it.
Right.
Yeah. That's great. So actually, I think if you don't mind, Andy, I was going to share the next, let's see if I can share my screen too. The next slide was really to say, okay, we talked about which type of practitioner you want to add. And, my comment here was like, is there any low hanging fruit? So is there anybody already that you know that you could reach out to that you haven't done so already?
There's a couple chiropractors that I know and a couple of naturopathic doctors I know.
Okay, that's great. So, and what's your preferred method of contact? Like what tools might you use or suggest to connect with them?
I probably would start with email first.
Okay, great. And do you think that there are any imperfect actions you can take this week to get started?
I would have to draft an email that I would send to get started.
Okay, there you go. Okay, so that's the process. That's exactly it of getting started. Because I think that networking, not just to you. Thank you so much, Andy, for sharing.
Absolutely. Thanks.
So I think that networking is often overlooked until we need a job, for example, in many cases. And actually, I will mention that the one that probably the teacher that made the most impression on me from a networking standpoint, her name was Diane Darling, and she still runs a networking. She still runs like a networking, I guess, education service. And still, I think that in COVID was probably the first time that I haven't heard from her in probably like a year and a half, but I was still on her Rolodex. And she still reached out to me to say, hey, how are you doing? And we met a couple of times over the years. And really it was just to keep up with her network because that was her job. And I actually think that it worked because I brought her and had her do some networking education, I believe, when I think I was at Michigan and I brought her in to do some networking education. So just staying in touch is one of the most the biggest keys to keeping your network strong. So let's say, I just wanted to wrap it up. I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, so here's some tips for success. I think that when you hear about like tips for success for being online on social media, and everybody talks about consistency is key. I can't speak to that on social media because I am not as consistent, but I am consistent in my reaching out to my network. I regularly reach out. I keep it on my to-do list. And, sometimes I have busy times in my life and it falls off, but it always gets its way back on. And I always find new reasons to connect and stay top of mind. So it might be in the past, I've like sent out some networking emails about like a study that talked about, vitamin D and how vitamin D was so critical for immune system, but people are hesitant to use it, et cetera, et cetera. I will tell you, I got crickets, absolute crickets. Nobody said a thing like, oh, this was great. Thanks so much for sending that. And you know what I realized? That is not what my referral network wants. That is not what they want. They don't want that type of information. They want me to manage that and deal with that with clients. Instead, they just want to know what things they can refer their clients to. So I will get in touch with them if I have a new class coming up. I will get in touch with them if I see that they've offered a new service offering online. Like, for example, there's a pelvic floor PT locally, and I'm connected with a few others, and I usually actually do like a collaborative program with one other pelvic PT, but this woman I've reached out to a couple of times and she's lovely and she has a new online course. And so I saw that. I said, hey, I saw your course. It looks amazing. Should I be is it ready for, prime time? When can I start referring people? How is it going? So I reached out to them pretty regularly, and it's not just about what I have to offer, but it's to ask them how I can help them. That's usually my first line, like, hey, I wanted to reach out. How can I support you in your business? What's going on? I saw X. Is this what I should tell people about? Also, I will tell them what I have going on very briefly, but this is only once I've established that relationship. So I might tell them about a new relevant handout or a new, article that their clients in this specific target might need. Like, for example, I have an article right now that's being published on a dairy-free breastfeeding diet. You are certain I am sending messages to all of the doulas in childbirth space and IBCLCs about this article and how they can refer their clients to this article and to actually use the data and use the information to help their clients. I will say that staying organized, however that looks like for you, is most helpful. Like I had mentioned to you, when it started getting pretty complex, my referral network started getting a bit more complex. I had to start keeping track of like what I'd sent to who and when. And so that's how I created that Excel spreadsheet. I'm not perfect at updating it, but I do my best. So I try to put a little tickler in my calendar to remind me to like check out my networking calendar and my networking list and keep it updated. And then I would say be authentic to you. So just because somebody else is reaching out to doctors and nurse practitioners or PCPs doesn't mean that feels right for you. It didn't actually feel that right for me because it didn't feel like I knew enough doctors and nurse practitioners that actually wanted to use nutrition first for my clients and what they were faced with. They were very quick to use medications, and I felt like it was going to be an uphill battle for me to get these medical providers to try a nutrition and food forward approach. And that's why I started with the more holistic, natural providers to reach out to them first. So, and the last one is really imperfect action is better than no action at all. So just sending a quick email. So Andy had mentioned she needs to draft an email. I think thinking about that draft of that email might have taken me like weeks. It would have been on my to-do list. And sometimes it just means I have to just I have to practice. So maybe I have to practice outreach with somebody that's not as top of my list. So let me give you an example. If I was going to reach out to an IBCLC and I wanted to make sure my language was right, I knew exactly how to say it, I might actually start with just like, you know, a local childbirth educator or the milk bank or somebody that I didn't feel like was going to be a huge referral partner for me, but it would at least get me getting comfortable with that language so I could take an imperfect action. Okay, the last thing I wanted to mention is so key, and you probably do this if you're not already. You probably do this though in your own clinical practice already, but is the whole cycle of getting better at what you're doing. And I do think that building a referral network can continue to get better and better. But the only way that it can get better is if you understand and what you're doing and you have a strategy laid out, whether it be as simple as reach out to these 3 types of practitioners, request an email, and then follow up with them in 2 months or 6 weeks with more information, and then assess what happens there. So you need to start with designing a strategy. It can be super simple, and then set a timeline for yourself on how long you're going to give yourself to execute the strategy or implement the strategy, and then commit to yourself to evaluate your strategy or measure your results when possible. So you might have a little list on your phone that says, I'm going to reach out to these 5 people, and then I'm going to write a note to myself to say, what happened? Have I received in within 2 months, who did I talk to? And then who did they actually refer to me, if anybody? So how you would then assess is write yourself a note and say, okay, I'm going to assess, who did I reach out to? What was the results? Did that work? Did that not work? Okay, if it didn't work, how can I then adjust my strategy? So for example, it might not work for you to reach out to, like, maybe naturopathic doctors is on your list, and you find that you reach out to naturopathic doctors and they're excited to talk to you, but then they never refer anybody to you. Whereas the chiropractors are like super excited to say, hey, reach out to this nutritionist. She's so great about helping joint pain and muscle pain associated with weight loss and making you feel better. For example, I'm using your example, Andy. Hope you don't mind. So the only way to really get better is to follow this cycle pretty consistently, and to be able to persist through the rejection, but also evaluate your results and see if they're working. Because if they're not working, it's time to make adjustments. You don't want to get too far down the path and say, I've reached out to 30 people and nobody has referred anybody to me, because that would tell me that your approach needs adjusting. And maybe thinking about what these practitioners need from you needs adjusting. Or maybe the way that you're connecting with them needs adjusting. But the only way that you'll know that is if you can keep track of it yourself, stay organized, and measure yourself regularly. Okay, that's all I have. I hope that was helpful. I would love to take Q&A. Anybody has any questions? I'm happy to talk through it, even talk through live of like things that you're stuck on or stumbling with, and we can all learn from that.
And if anybody wants to talk, just raise your hand and I can unmute you. We've got a quiet bunch. It's Monday after 5.
I know, right? I was like, I don't know, that's going to be a good day, but
that's all
hopefully
right.
people will listen later too.
Okay. I put the CE survey link in the chat, so all the CNSs, be sure to go to that to get your CE certificate.
Okay.
Well, thank you
Great.
so much, Danielle. This was wonderful.
Thank
And
you.
the recording will be posted. I'll send it to everyone that registered it, but it'll also be posted on the website so everyone can go back and watch the replay.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good evening.
Take care. Bye-bye.